Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we've got our first Power Rankings video of the season. We are just under a week into the NHL season, and we're going to be doing our first Power Rankings video based on the start of all of these teams. We'll get to my Power Rankings and who's 1 through 10 coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. Before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do it without all of you guys, so if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below and don't forget to leave a comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget to stay tuned for videos coming out in the very near future. Once again, if you haven't already, go check out my community tabs. I've started to post on there if you want a regular update on what I'm posting each week, every Sunday. Check it out. I also post a couple of other things there, so definitely check it out if you haven't already. And on top of that, keep up to date with all the videos. I'm going to try and post consistently a little bit better, so don't forget to stay tuned and don't forget to check out the video that happened last night. It's a really good one, so definitely don't forget to check that out. But in today's video, we've got our first Power Rankings video of the season. I did this last year. It was my first time doing it last year, so I'm hoping they'll run a little bit smoother the second year we're doing it now. So we're going to start off as we usually do, 3 honorable mentions and then 10 through 1, and we'll figure out who's going to be the top 10 teams in the NHL after week 1. So let's start with the 3 honorable mentions. The first honorable mention I want to discuss here is the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think the Penguins had a really solid week. Like, they started out with a shutout win over the New York Rangers. They narrowly beat the New York Islanders, and then they got their butts absolutely handed to them by the New York Rangers in the second half of playing them home and home with the New York Rangers. So, like, if they had actually been a little more competitive against the Rangers in that second game, might have even put them in that top 10, but because they did lose quite badly to the New York Rangers, I'm putting them as one of my honorable mentions. But still, they had a fantastic week. Malkin is looking fantastic, playing on the line with Justin Brazeau. Crosby's being Crosby. Some of the younger guys are starting to do well. Ben Kindell got his first career NHL goal, which was fantastic. And the goaltending, as well as it was bad in that third game against the Rangers, it didn't look half bad this week. So I think Pittsburgh's heading in a good direction right now. We'll see what they do this week, but the 2-1-0 start I think is good enough to give them an honorable mention. The second honorable mention I have is the Edmonton Oilers. They only played 2 games this week, so very little to go off of. We'll have to see how they do this week before I either put them in my top 10, keep them as an honorable mention, or put them below. But a 3-0 lead against Calgary, they blew it and lost in a shootout to the Calgary Flames, and then they narrowly got by the Vancouver Canucks 3-1. So I mean, their big guys are doing good, especially Draisaitl, who's picked up right where he left off last year. On top of that, Mangiapane's actually having a pretty solid start to the year too. I think he's got 2 goals in 2 games. So they got some people doing really good, but I would have liked to see him have a little bit of a better defensive performance, especially against Calgary, which is why, for the time being, I'm at least going to put them in the honorable mention category. And my other honorable mention is the Nashville Predators. They started the season 2-0-1. They held the Ottawa Senators to 1 goal. They held the Columbus Blue Jackets to 1 goal in games 1 and 3 when they beat Columbus 2-1 and Ottawa 4-1 yesterday. Sandwiched in between that was a 3-2 overtime loss to Utah. So once again, I don't think it's a bad start. I would have liked to see him have a little bit more offensive production, because if you take out the empty net goals against Ottawa, they've scored 6 goals in 3 games, which isn't a recipe for success. But I mean, if you take out the Utah game, they've only given up 2 goals in the other 2 games. And even if you count Utah's, like, they've given up 5 goals in 3 games. That's not half bad. So defensive wise, they're doing really good. Saros has looked phenomenal to start the year, and they're getting some decent offensive contributions, but they haven't been a hugely offensive firepower team. And even though they do start on a 3-game point streak, I am going to keep them in the honorable mention category. So those are my 3 honorable mentions. And next, going over to the top 10 teams I have in the NHL after week 1. So the 10th team, in my opinion, will be the New Jersey Devils. They have a record of 2-1-0. They started out the week with a very bad loss to Carolina, a game in which it was tied with about 2-3 minutes left in the third before Carolina got a go-ahead goal and then a couple of empty netters, which led the Carolina Hurricanes to winning 6-3. They go to a massive start and beat Tampa 5-3, and then yesterday they took down the Columbus Blue Jackets 3-2. So once again, they were really close against that Carolina team. That was really a close game, and they could have easily won that. And then they dominated Tampa, and then on top of that, they took down the Blue Jackets. Like, Jersey's had a really solid start to the year. Heischer, Meyer, Hughes, they're all having really good starts. Luke Hughes especially, like, he's got a whole bunch of points in those first few games. The goaltending has not looked half bad, besides that game against Carolina. Carolina. So all in all, I think Jersey's done well. They could do a little bit of things better, but I think a 2-0 record with how they did this past week warrants them 10th spot on the power rankings. 9th spot on the power rankings is the Montreal Canadiens. Now, I think they're going to be here for a while. They could fall out next week. We'll see how they do, but the Montreal Canadiens had a solid start to the year. They lost 2-5 in a very competitive game to Toronto, in which they gave up 3 third-period goals, and then they won over the Detroit Red Wings 5-1, and then with only 15 seconds left, they took down Chicago Blackhawks 3-2. So, like I said, the Habs are doing really good things right now. The Bolduc edition is looking fantastic. All of our captains looking good. Caulfield got on the board. Slavkovsky's on the board now. So, their big guys are contributing. Some of their smaller guys are contributing. Matheson's look fantastic on the blue line. Goaltending hasn't been overly bad. So, all in all, I think the Habs had a pretty good week, which is why I'm putting them 9th on my power rankings. 8th on my power rankings, the Vegas Golden Knights. They also had a 3-game point streak, just like Nashville, to begin the season. It was first a 6-5 shootout loss to Los Angeles, then a 4-3 overtime win over San Jose, followed by a 2-1 overtime loss to the Seattle Kraken. So, once again, they could have had a couple more points, but once again, going 1-0-2 to start the season is not half bad. They had a really solid first game against Los Angeles that saw Eichel have a 4-point night. Dorofeev had a hat trick. Dorofeev is killing it right now. On top of that, Marner's not looked half bad. The power play is clicking a lot, so the power play is looking good. Hill could be a little bit better. The defense could be a little bit better, but when you lose Pietrangelo, you're going to have some speed bumps. So very interesting note there. But I think the 3-game point streak and going 1-0-2 is warranted for being 8th in the power rankings. 7th in the power rankings is the Seattle Kraken. Now, Kraken are undefeated. They're one of the last 3 remaining undefeated teams. They are looking fantastic. Started the season with a 3-1 victory over Anaheim, and then, like we said, 2-1 overtime victory over the Golden Knights. So they have been looking phenomenal to start the season, only giving up 2 goals in 2 games. The core is on another level at this point. So we shall see how they do later on. Like, there's a very likely chance with me predicting Seattle's not going to make the playoffs. They're going to be out of the top 10 by next week. But at least for this week, with their 2 games that they've played, they've looked phenomenal, and that's why I'm putting them as 8th in my power rankings. Offensively could be a little bit better, but defensively, they have been lethal. So good stuff there for Seattle. 6th in my power rankings is the Boston Bruins. They started the year 3-1-0, and their loss was just yesterday to the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, I mean, started with 3 straight wins. They took down the Washington Capitals, followed down with a takedown in overtime of the Chicago Blackhawks, and then quite handily beat the Buffalo Sabres before losing to Tampa 4-3 yesterday in a game that they almost came back and at least tied. So, I mean, Boston seems like it's going to be a very hard team to get rid of this year. I'm not sure if they'll be a playoff team, but I think they're going to be a lot better than I was originally anticipating. Their younger guys are starting to do good. Guys like Kuznetsov, guys like Minton, Pasternak's playing unreal stuff. Swayman has been spectacular to start the season. So all in all, I mean, like, Boston's having a really solid start to the year, which is why I'm putting them 6th in my power rankings. Next, the top 5 teams in my power rankings. At 5th, we have the Winnipeg Jets with a 2-1-0 record. The Jets are looking great at this point. The Jets started the season with a loss to Dallas Stars, which wasn't overly good. It was a 5-4 loss, but they almost came back in, and then they won twice after that. They beat the Los Angeles Kings 3-2 and handily beat the New York Islanders 5-2. So once again, they went toe-to-toe with Dallas, even if they didn't win it. So, like, because of that, I'm going to put them really high. The win against Los Angeles was pretty impressive. They also beat the New York Islanders. So all in all, pretty solid start to the season for the Winnipeg Jets. They're going to be a really solid team. The President's Trophy team from last year starts this year 5th in my power rankings. The 4th team in my power rankings is last year's Stanley Cup champion, the Florida Panthers. Started the season 3-1-0. Now, they had a dominant win over Ottawa on Saturday to go up to 3-0-0. So because of that, that's why I'm putting them so high. But they had a close win against Chicago, a close win against Philadelphia, and lost their first game of the season yesterday to Philadelphia. So all in all, I think they could have been a little bit better. They're barely beating some of the more mediocre teams, lower end teams in the NHL. Like I said, they had a dominant win over Ottawa, which I think was very impressive. But I just think that they could have had a little bit more dominant victories, and the loss to Philadelphia really hurts. But like I said, because of that dominant win over Ottawa in and of itself, I'm going to put them as the 4th team in my power rankings. 3rd team in my power rankings is the Colorado Avalanche. They are starting this year on a 4-game point streak. They currently have a record of 3-0-1 for 7 points. So a pretty solid start for the Avalanche. They started out with a win over the LA Kings. Then they took down the Utah Mammoth, scores of 4-1 and 2-1. Then they narrowly lost in a shootout to Dallas Stars 5-4, before yesterday took down the Buffalo Sabres quite handily 3-1. So once again, not bad stuff there. Like, if you take out the Dallas game, they've given up 3 goals in 3 games. Like, that's fantastic for the Avalanche. So defense is working really well. Offense is working to some extent. Like, I think the offense could be a little bit better, but Natchez, McKinnon, Lekin, like, they are all doing great stuff for the Colorado Avalanche. So very interesting note there. But the Avalanche do have a 4-game point streak to open the season. That's good enough for 3rd in the power rankings. 2nd in the power rankings is our 2nd of 3 undefeated teams, and that is the Carolina Hurricanes. They started the season, like we said, with a win over the New Jersey Devils, before they followed that up with an overtime win over the Philadelphia Flyers. So once again, I think they could have been a little bit more dominant. I think they could have, especially with Philadelphia, easily beaten them, but they started the season 2-0, so you can't be upset with that. Like, Aho's done really good to start the season. Jarvis, Blake, Hall, there's a lot of really solid options on the forward group that have had really solid starts to the year. So with that in mind, being undefeated 2-0 and having 2 straight wins to start the season, I think 2nd spot in the power rankings is warranted for the Hurricanes. My top team for the power rankings, at least for week 1, once again, this is a little bit of a feeling out week, so very likely things will be flipped upon its head as of next week. But for this week, top team in power rankings is the Dallas Stars. Like, they are 2-0, so they're the last of the 3 undefeated teams, but the teams they had to beat is harder than any of the other undefeated teams or teams who are close to being undefeated. They had to beat the Winnipeg Jets in their opener 5-4, and then they took down the Colorado Avalanche, who are on a 4-game point streak to open the season 5-4 in a shootout. So like, Dallas has had to have some very interesting games to open the season against 2 really tough opponents in the Central Division, and they won both those games. So with that in mind, with their level of points, their undefeated record, I think everything at this point just says Dallas should be the top team in the power rankings. Like, also if you look at all the other stuff, like offensively, teams clicking. Johnston, Rantanen had a really solid game against his former team. Robertson's actually starting to do pretty good this year. Defense, well, it could be a little bit better. It's not looked overly bad, and Onger's still making some pretty good saves. So all in all, Dallas Stars had a fantastic week, starting 2-0, beating 2 Central Division rivals, and to start the week, they are number 1 in my power rankings. So just to recap, my top 10 power rankings are as follows for week 1. New Jersey is number 10. Montreal is number 9. Vegas is 8. Seattle is 7. Boston is 6. Winnipeg is 5. Florida is 4. Colorado is 3. Carolina is 2. And the number 1 team for week 1 is the Dallas Stars. So definitely, I'll let you guys' thoughts on all this down in the comment section below. After a very interesting week 1 that saw most teams go 500, who would you have as your top team in the power rankings, and who would you have in the top 10? Definitely thoughts on all of that down in the comment section below. That's all I'm talking for today. Remember to like this video. If you're listening, subscribe below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do this without all of you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget the subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget to stay tuned for videos coming out in the very near future. I also do a blog, talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that. So check that out. I will link to that in the description below. Can I see you guys all for next video? See you guys soon.